Hey everyone, how's
Hi,
everybody doing? How are you, Marlon?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm keeping well. I'm keeping well. I need to turn my speakers down. They're very loud. Don't want any echo coming along.
Oh, is there a lot of my voice in your ear?
Yeah, I've got them on speakers. Um, we're back again for our Vev Lounge. So this is our monthly webinar where we have guest speakers. We talk about Vev, super casual. We've got the chat open as well. So if anyone wants to ask any questions or talk amongst yourselves, you're more than welcome to do that. And today we do have a special guest this week, and we have Dan Redding from Message Lab that is going to be talking about animations because they've made some really impressive work in Vev. So should we bring him
Yeah,
in?
we should bring him in
Yeah,
for sure.
let's bring him in and let him introduce himself. Hey Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, good morning.
How are
Oh
you?
yeah,
Good
good morning where
morning.
you are. How is it? A sunny day?
It is. It's beautiful here in Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's like unseasonably warm and beautiful out. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you for
We're
having me.
happy to have you here.
Did you want to give
Okay, Dan.
a bit of introduction
No,
about yourself and Message Lab and
Sure.
what
Yeah,
you do
so
there?
Message Lab is a marketing agency. We combine journalism and design to tell stories for our clients, and I'll show a couple of those today. I'm a senior visual designer on the team. We have a pretty small design team, but this year we've been really expanding our capabilities and using Vev to tell stories. And it's been exciting to, design and build interactive stories and kind of like expand the way that we can tell stories on the web.
nice. And what sort of clients do you typically work with?
Mostly tech clients. We have a lot of tech clients. But we're trying to branch out. So you'll see examples from ServiceNow today, also SoftBank Vision Fund, which is a venture capital fund. Google Store is a client. So yeah, we've got a wide range of clients in tech and other fields.
So your role is to mainly design these experiences and use Vev to make them?
That's a big part of my role. We're generalists on our team, so we do a little bit of everything. All of us designers on the team, like, will use Vev, or maybe we're doing hero art for a story, or it could be social art or video editing. There's a lot of tools that we use, but Vev has been one of the primary tools this year for sure.
And I guess a very important question there is, do you love it?
Yeah, yeah.
Not leading at all. No, but
No, it's been great. I really just enjoy this kind of storytelling and like interaction design, and I'm interested in making interaction design one of our major capabilities. It's also like some of the way that we think of storytelling is, in standard articles, and as we have like sort of branched out into other ways to tell stories, it's just like exciting new territory to think about something that is like totally outside of the box. Maybe it's a journey map or an org chart that's interactive, or just something that we do a lot of exploration. So, we're called Message Lab, and we do think of ourselves as a lab. Um, so we do a lot of like experiments, and Vev is really good for that. I've really enjoyed like experimenting and iterating in Vev. Sometimes on a project, I will make 10 or 15 prototypes, and I'm
oh
just like
wow.
rapidly iterating on things, and I'll duplicate the file and like, let's try this. And like, that doesn't work. Duplicate the file again. Let's try that. That doesn't work. The next one is something cool or whatever. So Yeah, I really enjoy experimenting with interaction design and storytelling in Vev.
Yeah, which leads
I
nicely
love that.
into sort of animations and micro interactions. And I guess when did you guys sort of get into like the world of building experiences, that are interactive? Like, has this something that you guys have always done, or is it something that's sort of elevated in the last like 5 years or so?
So I started at Message Lab a year and change ago, and when I started, it was kind of a new. We'd done some. The company had done some interactive experiences, but this specific kind, like the Vev storytelling we're doing, is new since I joined. Um, so it's been a capability that we've been building since I got here. Um, yeah.
Awesome. And then, yeah, on that note, did you want to dive in and start showing off some of the work that you've done and talk us through, the animations that you've used and why you've used them?
Sure.
Yeah. Which project would you like to start with?
I think we can start with we call it the special report for ServiceNow. Um, a question for you. I've heard you talk about micro interactions. How do you define a micro interaction?
Oh, I'll let you take them on.
I mean, it can be super subtle things like if like interactions on the mouse, like things that are sort of animations, but you have to interact with the content for the trigger to happen. So I guess
Hmm.
it's kind of like a subcategory of an animation. But at least what we will see now in the sustainability report that you've built is that you have a lot of those, even though they also classify as animations. If you do certain things on the page, there's some micro interactions that really gets you like excited about further interacting with the piece and scrolling. So that's at least my definition and what I've gathered from the years that we've been working with animations and interactions. But it's probably open for interpretation in some way.
Yeah,
If
perfect.
you have
Well,
any other thoughts on what a micro interaction is.
maybe we'll see some as we look through the piece.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
discover
I'm
it
gonna
together.
start sharing the project now. So this is the sustainability advantage report. So I've also, just before we start on this, I've opened up the Q&A. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, type them in the chat or put them in the Q&A box. We can sort of cover all of those at the end. So yeah, any questions with Dan or us or anything to do with animations or animations in dev, far away. Floor is yours, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah. So this one is a project for ServiceNow as our client. We run a thought leadership publication for ServiceNow, it's called Workflow. You'll see the workflow there, logo there at the top of the piece. This piece is a package of stories, and the theme is ESG, um, which is environmental, social, and governance. This is one of ServiceNow's big themes or priorities this year. So this is a package of stories on that theme. At the top here is, basically a hero image, and we used video as a background, and you'll see that throughout the piece. Kind of like, so this was our first Vev piece that we published, and this was really kind of my first thought is like, how can we take advantage of the interactive and multimedia nature of Vev? And so we're experimenting with video as background. Um, yeah, that's the hero up here. There's also a. Go ahead.
No, I love it. It's just such a subtle detail as sort of an animation, or it makes it interactive, even just being that little detail in the background, I think is really, really clever.
Yeah, and I think this is the one thing that sort of separated you guys when I worked with you with the onboarding from the start is your attention to detail for like these small things, and you send over questions like, oh, how can we do this? We want to do this sort of thing, and I've gone, oh, actually, I don't know about that, and then I've had to go away and sort of think about ways to achieve that. And yeah, you've throughout this entire page you'll see like these small things which we've not really seen on Dev projects before. And yeah, if we go further down the page, so yeah, one micro interaction here, which is probably quite common, is this sort of like down arrow to show to continue scrolling. And obviously, yeah, if you hover over it or click down, it will take you to the next segment. And this is one of the examples of the animations that I said, where it's drawing a line. And I think you achieved this with the stacking or the staggered animation trigger. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it's called stagger slide. And first of all, you just mentioned an important point, which is how much help you gave us, which was like so valuable. And a big part of our experience with Vev was yourself and Ulrich and the rest of the team were so helpful in like helping us learn it and create some of these things. So that's been another big part of our Vev experience, is like um, sort of collaborating with you all, and that's been really helpful. As for this component here, this this took me a long time to figure out how to do this, but I think I've got the hang of it now. So a lot of things in Vev or maybe in interaction design almost feel like you're creating an illusion to me. So like sometimes if there's something in my head that I want to create, there's no tool that's like a draw a line in a box tool. You have to like come up with an illusion to make it look like a line is drawing a box. And in this case, it's actually 4 lines that animate into this group, and the group has I guess it's called crop content in it, so you can't see the line when it's outside of the box. The other part of the trick here is the X and Y axis takes some finagling, because when you turn the line on its side, you just have to account for the flip of the axis. So that's one of the other tricks there. But it's four lines that animate in using stagger slide, and that stagger slide animation is really powerful.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that I've only really started using it more since this, since I see you guys do this. I was like, oh, actually, there's like quite a few different functions actually the stagger slide can be used in, beyond just animating text in or something like that. But yeah, it can be very, very powerful, as you see there. Something that looks really simple, but
Yeah.
it just adds that extra element to the page. And
There
then
might even be another way to do that that I don't know.
there probably is, if you
Yeah.
with like just using the regular sliding animation and putting delays in or something. I don't know,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, this one lower down is probably one of my favorite animations that I've seen to date,
Wow. Thank you.
which is a scroll animation. So we've got these two trapeze.
Hmm.
Is that the word?
Yep.
And we also, yeah. Do you want to talk us through this bit as well?
Sure. Um, I spent a long time like refining this and trying to get it to look natural. So a lot of these are our first attempts at this concept didn't look natural. You want it to look like gravity and you want it to look realistic. And so it took a lot of finessing to figure that out. And that's just like experimenting with different speeds or load versus scroll. Just took a lot of experimenting to get them to look like they were naturally moving towards each other.
Hmm.
The other thing that was a roadblock at first, you can see on the right how I made his trapeze fade into black.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, at first I was a little bit stymied by like how to cut him off and sort of the page width and margins.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I eventually came up with that, just like fade it to black so that you don't have to worry about cropping. The other trick with this one, and I hope I don't get too far into the weeds of
No, no.
animation. Um, his the person on the right, the image is like the image is much larger, and he appears at the bottom left corner because I wanted the axis of the image to be in the center. In other words, if I made the image just him, um, and made it rotate, it will rotate like from his thighs, but it has to look like he's swinging from a place up off screen, right?
Mhm.
So I had to kind of like fake that.
Yeah, so you kind of put an image in a group and moved him into one of the corners, I guess, to make him make it animate from the center point of the frame, to achieve that, which is,
Yeah,
yeah, and the effects of. So I
that's probably a
imagine there was a lot of
smarter way to do it.
playing around.
Yeah, I think I actually just made a gigantic PNG with him in the corner, but the way that you just suggested is probably the smarter way to do it.
Yeah. It looks absolutely amazing, and there's a few different uses of animation like this lower down the page.
I mean, one thing that we've covered quite a lot already in this session together is that there's always quite a few ways to achieve what you want. There's never only one
Yeah,
way to achieve the things you want in Vev.
Yeah,
So
I think the important thing is like there's obviously a lot of different ways to do anything in sort of web design or any design. If you're just doing things in Photoshop, there's probably like 7 ways to do the same thing. It's just finding a way that works for you and that is manageable within the ecosystem that you're doing it in. Because if you did it in a way that there was like loads of like assets or something, and it can be quite fiddly to work with. So definitely, like you said, you took a lot of experimentation to like get it to the point where it is, to sort of figure out how to use it. So and it's definitely paid off.
yeah, that's been a big part of the process of my process in Vev is like there's something in my head and it's like you try this and that doesn't work and then you try this other way. So that idea of like there's 10 different ways to do something is like a big part of the process, and eventually I'll discover a way to make something work even if it seems like it's not going to work at first.
Yeah. And then here we've got some more text and images, and we've got some, I guess, quotes from different
Mhm.
people with some animations of their quotes sort of sliding in. Very small micro interactions here, but they're coming in as you're scrolling down the page. And in terms of working with the animations on a responsive level, how did you find that? And was there any workarounds or advice you have for anybody?
I think that's something that we're still actively learning about. um, the simple answer is like, percentages are your friend. um, and I like to try and work on the responsiveness as I'm working on the piece, like as opposed to doing all of the desktop first and then doing the rest, or doing all of the mobile first and then doing the rest. It's helpful if you're like thinking about it throughout your process. So any concept you're developing, I want to be thinking in advance about how it's going to work across excuse me, across
No, right.
viewports. So there's that. And then another trick that I've utilized sometimes is like if there's a section that I've built, like maybe that's even the case for this section, I don't remember, um, that needs like a different component for mobile, I might just make like a desktop version of the section and then a separate mobile version of the section, and disable the desktop one on mobile and vice versa.
Yeah,
So you're
yeah, it
like
makes sense.
hiding one there. It looks to the user like it's the same thing, but you're sort of hiding one and revealing the other.
Yeah, so sort of more like adaptive design rather than responsive, which
Mm-hmm.
has its uses in different places. And then here a bit further down, we've got some use of some sort of visualization is always a hard word to say. As you scroll down, you see a slide in of the different graphs here, and then there's another example of this further down. But again, here where you've got the birds flying is a very smart use of animations. This way they sort of fade in one by one. And then you've got the visuals in the background as well still, which is really, really cool, really sharp visuals.
Thank you.
Did you use the native chart tool in Web for this graph?
No, I'm pretty sure this one is custom. My experience in other like low code tools previous to using Vev, like this is just the way that I'm used to doing it. Like basically I would in the past, create a chart in Illustrator maybe, and then import into a low code tool. I've previously used Ceros in this way. And then like sort of rebuild the chart elements with vector components in the program, and animate them. So like I think these are just square shapes, rectangle shapes that just have animations on them. Um, for something more robust than this, that wouldn't really be manageable or realistic, but for simple data viz like this, that can work pretty well.
Yeah, I seem to think that when you guys work on this project, I don't think we had the charts available, which it now is as a native component, which is great. So that could have been an option as well,
Mm-hmm.
or now at least. But yeah, these sort of visuals with when you sort of gather your assets for these. Are they provided by the client, or is it something that you guys create and you know c- get it from, I don't know, stock or anything like that?
Most of it is stock. Like I think this is a Getty image. So usually we have a process of um, like using a rough draft or like a low res version from Getty or Adobe Stock or wherever else, and then once it's approved, we'll buy the stock image and upload the final version.
Yeah, makes sense. Looks great.
Thank you.
And then a bit further down here, I think we've got like a sticky animation or sticky. So this image and sort of bio on the left hand side sticks while you scroll through the Q and A's here, which is visually a lot more appealing than just having Q and A's. So that's obviously a clever use of. I guess you would call it animation. I guess this would be more of a sort of a micro interaction,
Hmm.
which is cool. And then here is the other sort of data visualization I was talking about. So you got you've used the scroll animation, I believe, where you've got different aspects coming in and sticking, which is a very clever use of animation here.
Thank you.
Dan, when you've been experimenting in Web, what's your favorite component to or element to play with, or favorite animation to use? Do you have a favorite?
Um, I don't know that I have a favorite. I'm more interested in like the concept and like how to bring it to life. Like right now we're working on some new projects that are more like, just to take one for example, like a journey map. Um, if that's the concept, how do you use animation and Vev components to make something unexpected, um, or like maybe I would think of using the horizontal scroll. The horizontal scroll is a really interesting one. Um, yeah, I think you just want to like, I'm most interested in finding the right tool for the job and bringing a concept to life with whatever that is.
Yeah, and I think obviously you guys use, well, at least in this project, there's like a variety of different things rather than just using the same sort of staple pieces over and over, which I think is what separates your designs as well. And in here, for example, are these Lottie animations that we've used here,
No.
or are these GIFs or videos?
The one on the right, I think, is Vev shapes that are just animated in
Oh
groups.
wow!
And the one on the left is a PNG that's got a rotation animation on it.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, because they look very fluid, like Lottie animations. So yeah, they're great.
I haven't
You could have fooled me
really
if you said they were Lottie animations.
Oh, cool. I
Yeah.
haven't really worked with Lottie animations much.
Yeah, I think they're quite complex to create if you want them to be bespoke. But there's tools where, or like stock where you can get Lottie animations, and you just basically download a JSON file, and yeah, you just upload it into Vev. So I can do a bit of a showcase on that after we've gone through some of the pages here, and then again you've got some more quotes, Q&A sort of thing here with the sticky scroll on the side. And then some more animations of sort of some statistics coming in here, and then hit down to the footer, and then one like a little micro interaction button for a lot of long sort of form pages where you want to obviously allow users to get to the top. Whether you have navigation or something at the top, only at the top, then you can scroll back to the top. Is there any final words you want to say on this project before we move on to the next one?
I don't think so.
No?
There's
Cool.
a question from the audience actually, which is related to this piece. So, which says, "Beautiful piece." Totally agree. How was the client's feedback, and was this the first time they made something like this, or did they have previous experience? I guess the previous experience talks about these type of interactive reports.
The client was very happy with it. This piece used to be a PDF. Like there was a prior series of these, and we kind of like moved it from PDF to interactive, and the client was very happy with that. I don't know if they had previous experience. Again, I can only speak to the last year and a half um, with doing this kind of thing, but they are interested in doing more now. So we're doing more, sort of as a result of this piece,
Fantastic.
or at least partially so. We've been like expanding our capabilities in that area, and like I said, that was our first Vev piece for them, and now we're doing more. So it seems like we're on like a path of growth, which is great.
I guess we can interpret that as a happy client.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then in terms of your development cycle, so before you guys used Vev, were you using other no-code tools, or was it everything primarily built in-house using code? And how has sort of using Vev sort of improved your quality of output and also the quantity of it?
Again, I can only really speak to like the last year plus. And so right when I started, we started considering a few Vev and a few tools like it. So that's really the only workflow I know at Message Lab. Um, but I mean, it's really nice to be able to have control over the whole thing myself. And like, if I need to make an update a month down the road, like hypothetically, I want to adjust something, or let's say hypothetically there's you need to add a comma, I can just go do that myself and it's live instantly. I like that part.
Nice. Just got a few more other questions coming in. So
Mhm.
somebody asked earlier, are there any other tools you would use with Vev? You mentioned Illustrator. Just wonder what else is part of your creative process.
Great question. We use kind of a little bit of everything. Photoshop for images, of course. Figma we use depending on the project. So there's like a number of different ways to work, right? Like you could design a whole piece in Figma and then import it into Vev or rebuild it in Vev. We've kind of done versions of that, but I find Vev, once I became fluent in Vev and feeling like really comfortable with it, I just work directly in Vev. So I'll just like work on imagery outside of Vev and bring it in, but usually like we'll work directly in Vev. So if we're like just concepting a piece and it's sort of like what is this piece? I might just make a prototype in Vev with gray boxes and start building from there. You could do the same thing in Figma or another tool, but often I'm using Vev for prototyping and design and doing just imagery outside in Adobe Suite typically.
Yeah, I guess that brings more like to like of what the client's getting rather than designing something in something external and then bringing it to something else, and something usually gets lost in between. So yeah, that's a good way to go about it, I think. More questions. So somebody's asked, is the idea to create interactive content requested by your clients, or is the creative choice of your team? So I'm
I think we've
guessing,
had both.
yeah,
I think we've
really
had
the
both,
answer.
but it's definitely something that we're, excited about and um, putting on the table. So yeah, we've had both scenarios, and then like once you start doing more of it, and this applies to anything really. Like once you start showing more of something and it's in your portfolio and you're sharing it as like an example of something cool that you did, like it can start to pick up steam. So yeah, a little of both.
Yeah, bit of collaboration, I think.
Mhm.
Somebody has asked, can we get a demo for the stagger slide effects you mentioned for the box animation? Yes, we can. We can do that at the end. And Emily has asked, what other types of content is your client looking to make more interactive?
Um, all of our clients are telling stories. So there might be, I guess one way to answer that question is different types of stories. So like the story we just looked at is very text driven, but there are also video led stories and data led stories. That's how we're kind of thinking, is like what are the other kinds of stories that we can tell in an interactive way. The other piece that we can look at today is very video led. So yeah, we're just thinking about the different types of stories we can tell.
Awesome. Cool. I think that's it for the questions for now. Do keep them coming if you have more. In the meantime, we will share the SoftBank Vision Fund. So this is like a piece about rebranding. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Cool.
Um,
So I think that's
yeah.
on my screen now. So
Yeah. So our client is SoftBank Vision Fund. This is their thought leadership component of their website, which we designed and built for them. And then this is an individual story that's part of that storytelling initiative of ours. And this story is about rebranding a company called LTK, which is a portfolio company, in SoftBank's portfolio. Um, it is There's a lot of video in this piece. We use video in the hero there. That is video that our team went and shot, or so that it's like a before and after. We're showing before the rebrand and after the rebrand. This is like old footage that came from LTK, and then this is some footage that we shot. So you'll see video throughout the piece.
amazing. So yeah, so straight away as well, we see some sort of micro interactions with this line and text coming in. So you see that a pop kind of pops in as it slides in. Scrolling down, we've got these quotes, and I think these assets as well are done in a really good way, where you've got the black and white imagery and sort of that you've got the colors popping in the background, which is really cool. And
Yeah, I
again,
think that
was
also
this
has
led by you guys, or was that led by the sort of like brand guidelines?
that is a brand treatment that our team developed. It's an imagery style that's like part of their, visual brand guidelines that exist around the site as well as in this piece.
Cool. So yeah, keep scrolling. We've got some very subtle animation here. Rather than having text coming in, there's just this line that's following as you're scrolling, which is really cool. And then this is one of the video pieces you mentioned.
Yeah, there's 3 interview videos throughout the piece. We do a lot of video, and that's a big part of our work as well.
Yeah, looks great. And then more animation coming in from the lines. So I'm guessing each part is like leading from story to story, and you're following the red thread, as it were, even though it's black,
Yeah.
going through the page. And then some animations here coming up as you scroll with like the unique brand imagery that you were talking about, which is great. If we keep scrolling, we have more quotes. So even in long form content pieces like this, I think the thing about animations is they just bring that attention to detail, and also it guides you through the page rather than just having a complete static page as if it was like I don't know, like a news article or something like that. And often, at least for me, for example, I kind of need moving things too to keep my interest. So I think this page does a great job captivating that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of like a fine line, right? Like
Mm.
I want the user to know that this is a multimedia interactive piece, as opposed to like having a bunch of static content on the page. But I also want, like, it's all about the reading experience. You want it to be a comfortable and pleasing reading experience. I also don't want to compete with the text in a piece like this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about like finding that balance.
Yeah, and I think one thing I tend to do with animations as well, it's finding how much to use. Like if you have literally animate everything, it can be overwhelming. But if you
Exactly.
animate nothing, it can be boring. So it's just finding that middle ground where you're keeping the interest of the user, but you're not overwhelming them, which I think a lot of people do one or the other quite often. Yeah, we've got some animations in here. So a lot of scroll animation in this piece, which is a good micro interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And then here we've got a horizontal scroll piece.
Yeah, so this is sort of like a timeline, although, it's like you might call it a journey, and this is something that we were like trying to figure out the right words to describe it recently. There are we have so many examples of like cool interactive pieces, and there's timeline is like almost a format of its own, right? But this one doesn't have like huge dates. It's more of just like a narrative story or journey that's told in this horizontal scroll with video, but the video is just textural. It doesn't have audio. So yeah, it just tells a little story across this horizontal scroll piece, and it took me a long time. Horizontal scroll was another item that took me a long time to sort of get the hang of, and something I'm still trying to like get better at.
Definitely takes a learning curve, I think.
Yeah.
But once it's done, you can make really powerful, as you see there, like really powerful timelines and things like that, which is really cool. More animation, more text. And then some sort of like points of the sort of learnings, I guess, from their process on how they rebranded.
Mm-hmm.
And then then an ending video, I believe.
Yeah.
Showcasing. And then back to top button, just like before. Is this something you use quite consistently in your work?
It is, yeah. We don't have any like formal guideline around it, but yeah, we do wind up using that pretty regularly.
Yeah, it's cool. Nice. Any final words on this before we finish up on that? I'm not sure if any more questions have come in.
Not from me.
No? Cool. There we go. Nice. Yep, a few more couple questions have come in. So someone has asked, how is the animation created with the photo that appears over the red graphic? I have to really look at that. The photo. So I think they mean the one with. They might mean the one with the image is
Maybe the
and the
one with the
phone piece.
woman stepping out of the box, or I'm not quite sure which one they mean.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they mean the phone one or they mean the box one. So there's two in there. So I'm guessing this was, for example, if I share my screen again, if we go to this one, for example, so here you've got like a red box, and then I'm guessing this asset here is a like a PNG cutout
Yep.
of this phone, which is in the front layer, and then
Hmm.
you have sort of scroll slide animations staggered throughout all of these, if that's correct.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a PNG with a transparent background that's laid over a red square, and again, like kind of creating the illusion of depth.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then just in case it is the other one, so here with the animation of this woman coming out of the box here. So from the look of it, this image is a PNG with the shadow,
Hmm.
and then you've got a box here which has like a clip content, and then I
Exactly.
guess another box down here. So you have the shadow coming outside of the box, which is really cool. And then some subtle animations on these squares for the scroll as well, which is a lot of grouping elements and putting animations on each individual layer, which kind of goes into like a parallax sort of effects where you put sort of different scrolling speeds or animation speeds on individual elements to sort of mimic like a 3D space when everything is obviously 2D on a web page. So yeah, really cool, really well done, nicely done. So that is how the animation creator. So that's that one, and then someone has asked me and my partner are thinking of building an LMS plus forum where they can interact with their fellow learners and share progress, etc. What features on Vev would you suggest for have quick quizzes, tests, etc.? Oof. Okay, that's a question more for us, I guess, Marlon.
Yeah, I think there's a few different ways to solve this. If you look for quiz in the add menu, there's definitely a few quiz elements that you can use. I think both simple question, like a one-off question, and then also like a quiz interactive as well that we have out of the box. I know that a few people have also sort of created custom experiences based on linking to several pages, um, sort of like with show hide buttons and stuff like that. So like we've discovered already in this call or in this webinar a few times, there are many ways to roam. But definitely would have a first quick look at the quiz features we already have available in the add menu to see if there's if that suits your needs. That's my immediate thoughts. I don't know if you have any additional thoughts there, Lewis.
Yeah, I think obviously you can also embed forms into Vev. So if you wanted to sort of host the quizzes on or questionnaires or whatever on different like from different third party sources, mouthful, you can embed that into Vev using the embed anything element. So you just simply get the embed code from the place that you want to use it and embed it into the site. So you can sort of keep the sort of page building in there, but the forms are sort of hosted externally. But yeah, and then we obviously have the quiz elements in there too, which is cool. So I think, yeah, that is all the questions for now. So I guess that moves us nicely now, because a lot of people have asked questions on how to do certain things. So our next segment is looking sort of build in public in Vev. So we can sort of share our screen and cover some of the stuff that people have asked about animations. So I will share my screen once more. And let's go into a blank Vev project to begin with. So the first question somebody had was how to sort of use the stagger slide animation. So for example, I'm just going to go in and put a few different boxes in here. So I'm just going to give these different colors just so we've got something different. Let's make this yellow. And then let's make this green. Let's make that slightly deeper green. So we've got, these three elements here. And when the stagger sort of slide animation comes into effect is when content is grouped. So I'm going to highlight all of these three boxes and press Command G or Control G if you're on a Windows machine. And this will put this into a frame. So we can see here on the left-hand side that the frame has been added. And if I select the drop down, we have three different boxes in there. So if I double click, then on the top here, we've got the little puzzle piece icon. So if we select this, we can find the animation add-on in here. And this is where you can manage all your animations for specific elements. You could do it for the group. You can do it on the elements. You can do it on sections. You can pretty much do it on any component that's in Vev. And inside here, you have the four different animation triggers. So we're going to look at the load one, which would have the stagger slide preset in here. So clicking the drop down, we can find stagger slide in here. And basically, when this is selected, what it does is for every component inside that list, it will stagger those animations. So anything that's inside that frame. So if we click preview again, we can see that that plays those three animations in sequence. So in terms of getting that sort of line around the box, the way Dan described it was you created a frame, is that right? And then you basically drew these individual boxes basically on the outside of the frame.
Mm-hmm.
And then use the stagger slide for each one of those things, which I could go into, but it might take me a little time to get that to look completely perfect. Is there any sort of other advice there, Dan, that you from creating that you would have in terms of the settings here?
So the trick with creating that square effect is if you the stagger slide on these, like they're all going from the bottom to the top right now, right? But in my version, it has to be like one comes from the side, the next comes from the top, the next comes from the right instead of the left, and then the fourth one comes from the bottom up. And the way you do that is if you rotate each one. It won't work for these since they're squares.
Well, I imagine they still will come from different directions, at least if we do the stagger slide. So so this is set to 0 degrees. This will be 90, and say this is 180, and that's rotated on its axis. So if we preview now, we can see them sort of moving in different from different positions. Yeah. And then what you've done as well as another addition is, as obviously we can see that these are sort of coming outside of where the frame lives. What you did, I believe, was select clip content here on the right hand side, and then this sort of cuts things in place. So you see this last one when it animates, you can see it's like coming outside of the view. So I guess you have led that, so it's like very thin, and then it's coming from a sort of further away position to fill that space, which very clever.
Yeah, they would all start outside of the frame.
Perfect. So let's get rid of that. I think there was another question. So that's a stagger slide one. Yeah, somebody asked about the quizzes, didn't they? So let me just show you where that is in here. So if we go to the add element and we search for quiz, I think there's two different types of quizzes. So you have quiz questions and quiz submit button. So these work in tandem with one another. So you could, for example, have the quiz question. If you double click it, it will go in so you can add the different items. So you can put in, I guess this is more so the answers than questions. So you would put in an answer. So you could put a text box on top saying, I don't know, think of a question, somebody quick. Well, I don't know. What's your favorite ice cream or something? So say one answer is chocolate, one is vanilla, one could be I don't know, strawberry. And then each one of these would then be associated with a score value. So you would say, I don't know, so chocolate is 1, vanilla is 2, strawberry is 3. And then depending on each of these answers, so if I zoom in a little bit, you would then go in. So the +1, +2, +3 won't appear on the preview because obviously that would be giving away the answers. But then if you want to then submit these, you would then have to have the quiz submit button, which comes in afterwards. Basically what it does, it adds up all of the scores together, and then you would have a submit button. So I'll just create a button here and typing submit. And then depending on the score that you get from ticking all of the different answers, you would then have sort of like a page navigation. So you would create subsequent pages leading to other to other pages depending on the answer or the range of answers that you've given. So for example, one would be going to another page. I don't have any other pages in this example, but you would select from the drop-down menu and select another page within the project. And then, for example, if the answer was chocolate, you would take it to this page, would be going to a page about chocolate ice cream. The next menu item would be going on about vanilla, and you just want to make sure that range is fitting between what those answers are. So that's the first type of quiz that we have. And then the other one, I believe, is something called multiple choice, which is kind of sort of all built in one, where you can go in. If I double click this, you can go in and add all your questions. And then there's also a sort of like success or results image at the end. So you can go in and add all the items. So what's your favorite ice cream? And then you can go in and add all the menu items. So if you say chocolate, so this one is more specific to having one specific correct answer for each question. So for example, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. Strawberry. And the obvious correct answer for this is chocolate. Like chocolate ice cream is the best. So if you then go into this now and preview and selected chocolate, it would say it's the right answer. And then it would need another button at the bottom. Check these, and there will be like a results screen as well. Let's search for chocolate. That's not how you spell it. We have like an image of a chocolate bar. Use this image, and then so I preview this now. I'll have to refresh the page just because I've already selected the answer.
We might experience some issues right now because Google Firestore is down.
Oh, okay. So
internet
that's
is going
good timing.
wild at the moment. Yeah, Bev is based on Google Firestore, so that means.
But that links into it nicely. So when you press the button at the end there, depending on what flavor ice cream, whatever your answer is, it will then have a success screen to show you what you scored in that quiz.
Yeah. We got some feedback here. We need more sessions like this where knowledge is shared. It's very interesting to see how others work with web, especially when it comes to animations. Fully agree, especially when someone creates as good animations as Dan.
Thank you.
Very, very cool to see. Can we customize the colors of the right and wrong answers depending on our brand colors?
You can indeed, yeah. So when you select any element in Vev, in the style panel on the right-hand side, that's where you would adjust things like the fonts and the colors that you want to be using. Perfect. And I think we're reaching the end of our hour. So if there's if you have a couple more questions, guys, you can throw them this way. I don't know if you had any closing words, Dan.
Not really, except that I agree. It's helpful to share knowledge like this. It's something that we're trying to do more of on our team, like even just internally, looking at Vev projects together and sharing like this. So yeah, it was fun to talk about these techniques.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure having you, and it's been a while since we've caught up. So it's nice to see all the other stuff you're working on in the background as well.
Same, thank you, and thank you so much again for all your help this year.
No problem. Well, you know where to find me.
And thank you so much, Dan, for wanting to share your knowledge with us and the rest of the people in the room. Really, really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Amazing. So yeah, that's everything. We'll finish up for now, guys. Thanks everyone for joining us. We will be back next month. I can't remember the date.
December 7th.
December 7th. We'll be back on December 7th, and we'll be posting more information on our social medias, so you know what the subject is and who our special guest is. But yeah, thanks for joining, everyone, and we will see you in a month. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.